This is AJ Soundbooth, the podcast.
I'm Antonia Jones. Music, entertainment, arts, culture.
Phoenix FM.
AJ Soundbooth.
AJ Soundbooth.
No, my name's Rachelle Fisher and I'm from London originally. I'm a singer, songwriter, presenter. I can sing in Spanish now. And I remember the first time that I tried to sing in Spanish back when I was at university, and it was so hard and I couldn't do it.
Wow.
To now where I can actually sing in Spanish.
Where you talk about your creative writing, I know that you've met the comedian Lenny Henry.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you have been snooping,
I
girl.
was scrolling. And I love the experience of when you met him and where you talked about songwriting and what he said about that and being creative, being your true self. And you've just said being your true self is really important. What was your key takeaway from that to now? I think that was about 2 years ago.
He said something really powerful. He said, no tears in the writer, no tears in the reader. He was talking about writing books. But actually, I took that away for music. And it's the same thing. If you don't feel it, it's very difficult for anybody else to feel it. If you don't have that conviction that actually, yeah, I believe in this song, I believe in the atmosphere that it's creating, it's authentic, then it's very difficult for anybody else to catch that vision.
So what's the one message you would like to say to a female, like up and coming, using the kind of knowledge you have from She Power?
I think one of my key messages to any women listening would just be that, just believe that you are so capable of the most amazing things. And where you start doesn't have to be where you end up.
Hi, Rachelle Fisher. How are you?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
Thank you. So I'm doing really well. So you are now in the new studio with me. So you are one of many first guests to come in.
I feel so privileged. It's so lovely here as well. So congratulations to you.
Thank you very much.
Awesome
and
place.
I'm just so glad to have you in the seat just to talk about your re-release of your new single, Hold Tight. That came out in March. So I want to hear more about that and your collaborations, all of the continents that you visited, the countries. Do you know, I've been watching you for a number of years, so it'd be great to hear all about that. But let's just start off with who Rachelle Fisher is.
It's that question that everybody hates to answer, don't they? No, my name's Rachelle Fisher and I'm from London originally. I'm a singer, songwriter, presenter and other things, but those are my sort of main activities. And yeah, I just love music. I've always loved music since I was 3 years old. I think I started singing, and it's just been a journey since then, really.
And I can see your Instagram feed. I must say, I really like it. It's so interesting.
Oh,
and
thank you.
I found myself just going through the stories as I do for my guests to get to know more about them. And I found the blogging, the vlogging really interesting, and just following you over the years to the different continents. And at one point I thought, is Rachelle still in London?
Probably not.
And I thought, I have this sneaky feeling that you're planning to travel again, aren't you?
Oh yeah, I definitely have the travel bug. I'm just waiting for everything to get back to normal.
Well, so how often do you travel in and out of London to the different continents?
Well, I mean, before COVID, it was a lot. It was almost every week I was on a plane somewhere. And I'd spent a lot of time in Eastern Europe. And obviously now with what's going on in Ukraine, which is a place that I've been to so many times, it's quite sad to see what's happening. But yeah, I spent a lot of time in Eastern Europe and just countries that I never thought I would go to, like Azerbaijan I've been to, and yeah.
And just seeing all the glitz and the awards and your amazing outfits. I was just
thank you.
Wow. And yeah, just tell us about some of these ceremonies that you've actually sang at and you've had the privilege to be amongst some amazing people and stars.
Yeah, so I worked with partners in Spain. One particular organisation, they put on lots of award shows like the TV and Radio Awards, Smile Awards, Luxury Awards. And I basically sang at all of those events, and it was just amazing, just to do music there and meet all these very interesting people, lots of famous Spanish people. And it'd be really funny because I'd be sitting in these places speaking to people, not realizing they're famous because I wasn't watching Spanish TV. So I'd just be myself and chat to people and then find out they've got 2 million followers on Instagram and stuff like that.
That is the best way to be, actually. And just in that environment, how was it for you? Because for the UK, we know that it is a really big market as well, and it can be quite small in the music industry. So how have you found it? Have you found it easier to break into the market in a different country?
That's a good question. Yeah, in one sense, yeah, because I take Spain as an example. There's not a lot of artists that look like me or sound like me. So I definitely have found it easier there. But London is London. London's a great place. And I think if you can make it in London, then it's a really good thing. It's a really credible thing because there is so much quality music here. So it really says something about you.
Yes, definitely. And also some of the collabs that you've had with different artists over in Spain and various countries. How have you found that?
Awesome. Like I'm always collaborating with people because I think collaboration helps you to grow as an artist. You learn different things. Sometimes when you want to change up your sound a bit, you might want to collaborate with someone in a different genre and just learn about like their genre and take bits that you can then put into your own music. So I'm always like open to collaborating with great people.
So when you're collaborating, you obviously have to sing in English as well as a different language. So how have you found that as well?
Okay, so yeah, I mean, obviously I sing in English. I can sing in Spanish now. Yeah. And I remember the first time that I tried to sing in Spanish back when I was at university, and it was so hard and I couldn't do it.
Wow.
To now where I can actually sing in Spanish and, you know.
And I saw your rendition of a track in a different language, which I was like really amazed with.
Oh, thank
you. So how has that kind of, how have you been received in the different countries? Singing a different language and knowing that you're not from that particular culture as well. How have you had to adopt? Because from what I've seen, that you spend more time overseas than in London. So has that changed you as a person culturally as well? What's that your experience been like?
Yeah, definitely. I always think that, and I always say that travel is the best education. And I think if more people traveled, if more people went to different countries and learned about different cultures and foods and languages, there'd probably be a lot less racism in this world. And so it definitely has changed me. It's educated me. I feel like I can relate to anybody from any walk, any background, because I've been around so many different types of people. So yeah, it's definitely a great thing.
And that's good as you touch on different cultures and racism and just your own experience as well. Like how have you dealt with that? For example, you could be out in an audience, you could be singing, you could see, you know, some of the reactions from the audience members, it could be their tone. Like how do you kind of deal with that?
I think what's really important, and this is something that I'm always learning to do, is to not react but respond. And sometimes the best response is just silence.
And as you say that, I'm not going to kind of go into that particular topic, but when you're in a prominent position and you are in the public eye, all things can happen. There could be scandal. And the media can see this. You know what I'm getting at?
Yeah.
So imagine coping with that and the backlash. And for you as an artist in the public eye, how easy is it for you to live a normal life, so to speak? Yeah,
no, totally. I mean, that's all depends on the individual. If somebody wants to be a prima donna, they can do that. If they want to live a low-key life, they can do that. It's no issue. I always think in terms of like how people react in public, nobody's perfect. And I think it's really important to remember that. Like each of us are dealing with our own issues. And, you know, hopefully we're trying to be the best version of ourselves, but sometimes we might get these triggers that cause us to react in ways that we hoped we wouldn't. So yeah, I try not to judge.
No, it's really important.
Yeah.
And I like the point that you say about being yourself, and we are human beings as well. And sometimes we are quick to point the finger.
It's so easy to point the finger, right?
And yes, definitely. So, it is really easy then to look at your own self. And I see artists and any influencer as a prominent figure that you look up to. So yes, and I think when you see flaws or any mistakes, I always look out for how they try to rectify it. And that's just the best way to go. So I do love the wavelength that you're on. So that's a good sign, which is good anyway. So moving on to your re-release of your single, please tell us more about that.
Okay, so first of all, why it was re-released was, I think it was just a couple of years ago, I was playing with like stage names. I didn't know, did I want to be known as Rachelle Fisher? Did I want to be known as Rachelle? So I basically released it under a different name and then realized, actually, I think I prefer my own name. Also, we had some issues with files being lost and stuff like that. And I've always loved the song Hold Tight. Like, it's just, there's something about it that is really special. And so when I decided that I wanted to release under my right name, I then made the decision that I wanted to put it out again. So, and this time much better than before. So,
And the secret behind your track, I was really interested in that as well.
yeah, so it kind of tells the story of somebody who, like, they feel like they have this call to do something and they really want to do it. But at the same time, they want the guarantee that if they step out in faith, it will work out. And oftentimes we don't get that guarantee. You just have to keep moving forward. And then as you move forward, things unfold and opportunities come, etc. And it's just that kind of tug of war that I think a lot of us go through, where we know we want to build that company, or we know we want to do that thing or educate ourselves, but we're concerned of what people around us might think, or we're concerned about whether we'll fail or not. And we have this kind of imposter syndrome where we doubt our ability. We don't know if we're worth it, you know, and it kind of talks about all those issues.
And I have experienced the imposter syndrome before, and on many occasions. And it's more about where you are given an opportunity, for example, and you feel like you're not worthy of it. So then you use all of the negative thoughts or your actions to try and convince yourself otherwise that this isn't for you. And I've done that on many occasions, but then how you get yourself out of it is really important. So how do you get yourself out of something like that to actually release a track? That must have been hard to even say imposter syndrome. And then, you know, how did you feel writing that? Did you feel exposed? How did you feel or go? What direction you're going?
Good question. Did I feel exposed? I don't know. I'm probably still thinking about it. Not really, to be honest. Nah. The thing is, I feel like my best songs are the ones where it's something that I've actually been through myself. And it's more authentic that way. So no, I didn't feel like any kind of embarrassment or anything like that. In terms of how we get out of it, I think, first of all, we have to recognize that each of us is so powerful. Like, we have the power to take our thoughts captive, because again, imposter syndrome is just a thought, a doubt, a worry, a concern, right? So we have the power to change that up. We have the power to say, actually, that's just a thought, but I have a better thought. The better thought is, I am worthy, I am capable. Even if I'm starting out, even if I'm not the best at it, I can take a step forward and actually move in the direction that I want to go. Also, I don't have to be perfect, right? So I think it's just being kind to ourselves and speaking the right words to ourselves, like really checking our self-talk. I don't know if you...
Yes, and that's really important, being kind to ourselves. It's such a really good line, and it's a good thing to practice each day. There's lots of different books, podcasts, people you can lean on to talk to if you need some inspiration, quotes for the day, apps on the phone. And I think, again, social media plays an important part, and it's what are we feeding ourselves each day as well.
Very, very true. Yeah.
So that does play a part. And I feel if you're spending a lot of time and looking at things that are possibly negative and you're not filling yourself with stuff that is positive, then it does kind of affect you, you know, your personality or, you know, how you're thinking. So it's always good to have a clear mind. It's like a therapy session now. But that works for me anyway. Definitely. So just where you talk about your creative writing, I know that you've met the comedian Lenny Henry.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you have been snooping,
I was scrolling. And I love the experience of when you met him and where you talked about songwriting and what he said about that and being creative in your true self. And you've just said being your true self is really important. What was your key takeaway from that to now? I think that was about 2 years ago.
It was, yeah. And by the way, like, I grew up watching Lenny Henry on TV, and he is as hilarious in person as he is on TV.
Really?
Like, remember all his programs? I mean, I was just laughing the whole evening. It was an interview. He said something really powerful. He said, no tears in the writer, no tears in the reader. He was talking about writing books. But actually, I took that away for music. And it's the same thing. If you don't feel it, it's very difficult for anybody else to feel it. If you don't have that conviction that actually yeah, I believe in this song, I believe in the atmosphere that it's creating, it's authentic, then it's very difficult for anybody else to catch that vision. So that was a key takeaway for sure.
And it's just nice that you get to meet all of these stars, as you say, and you can always take from them and their learnings as well. And yes, I remember watching him as well. And Lenny Henry, he's just an amazing person, and he's a good icon in the UK. And it's good we've got other acts who followed after. So it's always good to kind of see him consistently in the media as well.
Definitely. He's been through a lot as well. And I didn't realize how much he'd been through. Like, it was actually, he went through some quite traumatic experiences in his life. So it was quite powerful to see how he managed to overcome all of that and still be all that he's wanted to be and have the output that he's had in terms of his content.
So in terms of the different countries that you've sang in, like kind of what next? What with your re-release of Hold Tight, what is next for you in terms of the genre? Because I know you are into the genre R&B, you've got gospel as well. So are you willing to expand or wishing to expand into different areas? I know there's dance, I've heard deep house. I'm like, wow, I like that one.
Yeah.
Nice track.
Yeah, I just love music, so I love exploring different sounds. Definitely doing, in terms of what's next, I'm definitely doing a lot more music. I've got lots of releases this year and going forward. Deep house, commercial house, gospel are literally, I kind of fuse it all. I love South African house personally.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, I love that sound. So definitely a lot coming out in terms of those genres. I don't want to jump too much. I don't want to confuse people, I don't want to bring out something like rock. No.
But you never know. You never know. You never know how.
Never say never, but I'm trying to be consistent. People are like, "Oh my gosh, what genre are you doing?"
But I just saw the kind of resume and the deep house, like that has the kind of Ibiza vibes to it. So how was that for you? Just kind of breaking into that market?
Yeah, so I kind of fell into house actually. I was in Spain and I was doing a gig where I literally had to freestyle over house beats like for 3 hours. So I was just singing all kinds of songs, remixing them, live. There was no rehearsal. It was just making it up on the spot. And then I was like, this is pretty cool. And then at the end, a lady came up to me. She said, hey, have you got a CD of what you were doing? I was like, sorry. But I think from there, I thought, actually, I don't know. I just kind of got into house music. I mean, that was about 5 years ago now. It's quite a while ago. And I just explored since there, learned more about the genre. And yeah, I love it. It's awesome.
So then does this all stem from your kind of learnings at university? Because you studied a degree, is that right?
Yeah.
At uni in music. So how was that for you? Did you know, I know it sounds kind of cliche, but did you know you were going to go straight into music? Or like you said, from the age of 3 earlier, before we came on camera, that you loved music since the age of 3. So has that always been that consistent path all the way through?
Yeah, like I always wanted to do music. There was never a question. Music and dance, like from when I was as young as I could sing and dance. However, like in my family, there were no people in the music industry. So it's like, how do you even make that happen? I don't know. How do you, like, what the heck, So it was really just singing where you could, whether it be like gospel choirs at church, at school, recitals, anything. I used to there was this newspaper I used to read called The Stage. Any kind of audition, I would just jump on it. Any kind of vocal training program, I'd just be on it. And that's how I kind of progressed from there. So it always was for me. There was never ever a question. However, my first degree was actually in economics.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
See, I didn't know that. Couldn't find that out. I thought I'd, gone through, found enough.
Yeah, my first degree was in economics because my school of thought back then was, you got to do something to fall back on. I'm actually super happy that I did that because I've now learned that the music industry is basically an accounting industry, which, economics, business, it's all like super, super important. So I'm actually really happy that I have that balance. And then talking about imposter syndrome, I got my bachelor's in economics. And then I basically, after that, I decided I really want to go and study music. Like it's still, this dream is just not going away. So I applied for a master's degree in music. Now, if you want to talk about feeling like an imposter, but I got on and I had to work so hard. I got onto that master's degree program, and I passed.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. And it just reminds me every time I think about that, because I was surrounded by students who had no idea that I didn't do a BA, a bachelor's in music. Because normally you would do a bachelor's in music.
Yes.
Then you go on and do the master's. It's very difficult to not have.
And two different subjects as well.
So I'll just be sitting there like, without them realizing like I'm working so hard to like keep up with everybody. So
I'm quite intrigued. So the modules that you studied, did you have to create any music or any singles
at
uni
yeah.
in the masters, or was it more about the theory behind it and the industry itself?
It was more, sorry, I'm even trying to think. We did different modules like marketing and music, performance. So yeah, it was a mixture, but it was more studying the art of performance rather than actually making your own stuff. Like I did all that in my spare time.
And how important do you find, that you've used all that you've learned at uni now? And I can see from your profile anyway, it's very well polished. So I was like, right, okay. She's done really well in terms of your PR and how it's all set out. So how important is that for you as an artist?
I think the main thing that I learned at uni is actually how powerful determination is. Like it's not even necessarily things on the course. It was just the fact that I knew technically, I wouldn't have got onto that program, but I did. And because I was there, like I had to really fight and make sure that I did well. So I definitely took that with me. And the interesting thing is, you can study music till the cows come home. Once you start actually working professionally, it's a whole different ballgame. There's a whole different skill set that you have to learn, working with different people. And little things as well, especially when you're touring, just having the patience to wait in multiple airports. It sounds really small, but it's actually like really, really important, And you're meeting different people, just being kind, being respectful, not being like a diva or,
because it's probably quite easy to be a diva if you want to be, but or for anyone, whether it's a female artist or a male artist or just any artist in general.
Definitely. I think as well, like when you're going to certain places where, they don't necessarily have Black artists come all the time, they're treating you like kings and queens. And I think the big test is staying humble in those circumstances and not starting to think that you are anything special, You're there to serve with music, not for them to serve you. And I've definitely had to learn along the way. And it has nothing to do with how famous you are or how unfamous you are. It's just that you're in, let's say, a random town in Poland and they've never seen anyone that looks like you before. And it's like, all of a sudden, you're like the local celeb overnight,
And that's one thing that you say about being humble and being yourself and just having respect for other people. And I saw one of your videos where you mentioned there's 3 things that you do before you go out on stage. So yeah, I agree with you. That's really important. So that's a principle you continue to carry with you, and not knowing anybody in the different countries as well. And they will respect you for that. And it's, as you say, to serve. And when I saw your words behind serving, a lot of artists may not feel that way, but actually we have a gift. And yeah, so tell us more about that serving kind of methodology that you use.
Yeah, so I think my understanding of serving definitely comes from my faith. So, and it's the idea that we are all given gifts as human beings. So, and when I say gifts, I mean talents. And it's not about us using the talents for our own benefit, but it's actually about us using those talents to serve other people. It doesn't have to be a big talent, doesn't have to be singing or acting or anything like that. Some people just have a gift of compassion, right? And they need to give it to people who don't have it. And it's just, that's just my philosophy. Like, I just think it's super important. I think that's why we're here. And I think the real people who lead and the real leaders are people who serve, for sure.
Totally agree. Totally agree with that one. You've got to be able to serve. And so moving on to the World Radio Day and an official soundtrack. That sounds really exciting, a great opportunity for you.
Yeah, that was awesome. So I have friends at the Spanish Academy of Radio, and they also organise World Radio Day for UNESCO, UN. And so I was actually supposed to write that single a couple of years ago, but for some reason it never happened. And then this year, 2022, the opportunity came again. And so I had to write a track about the radio, which was quite interesting because obviously I love to write, but actually to write a song about radio is quite a challenge. What do you say?
Yes, what do you say? It's more about it's a mouthpiece to communicate a message.
Exactly. So I kind of went down the route of, we're all working in the radio and we all want to make the world a better place. That was kind of the premise that I wrote from. But it was super, super amazing opportunity. And just really enjoyed the process.
And it was like well received as well. Like an official.
Yeah.
And you're so humble about it as well.
Do you know what? It's as a promoting yourself.
No, but it's good though. It's good. It's definitely good. And when I seen that, but yes, it's like how you wear it, and I understand that it's the impact that it has. And the soundtrack, it sounds amazing. Just listening to it, and it's really catchy. That's what I found with your music and your singing. Going through your Instagram, as I say, videos, and the different kind of renditions that you come up with as well. So more on your kind of, I know you talked about your faith and your empowerment for women. Tell us more about the work that you've done in the past in regards to that, and how you've kind of led like programs to inspire women.
Oh, okay. Well, I've done work around that on the radio. Obviously, I had a radio show called She Power, and each week I basically interviewed women from around the UK who were doing amazing things, and just asked them lots of questions in order to inspire other women who were listening. And because I think when we share our experiences, like it helps people, right? So that was that. I have also done work in governance, and this is going really far back, but there's a lady called Carleen Furman, and we did, she led a study about girls in gangs and rape being used as a weapon. And I was on that team sort of researching. I think we interviewed about 300 girls altogether, and we wrote this, well, she wrote the report, and we gathered all this data and submitted it to the government. It won loads of awards. So I've definitely been sort of interested in and supporting women and female empowerment for quite a long time.
That sounds really interesting in terms of the work that you've done. How has that progressed since then?
Good question. I mean, I would say that the radio show is the latest thing that I've done around that. But yeah, do you know what? A lot of the work in terms of like empowering women, it doesn't have to be these big things like radio shows or like, I don't know, reports or TV programs. It's just encouraging the women down the street, with the women in our circles, women in our lives, speaking words over them that help them feel stronger, better, wiser. So yeah, sometimes I forget the things that I've done because I'm always just focused on like the people, the people around me.
Yeah.
So sometimes I forget. I'll have to think back to that. Oh yeah, I did do that. Oh yeah, I was part of that. But
so what's the one message you would like to say to a female, like up and coming, using the kind of knowledge you have from She Power, like today, 2022, with the world has changed to how it was 2 years ago. Like what would be your kind of message to them now about empowerment and inspiring them?
I think one of my key messages to any women listening would just be that, just believe that you are so capable of the most amazing things. And where you start doesn't have to be where you end up. And if I could say anything to women, or if I could do anything for women, it was just be to encourage them to get out of those boxes that people have put them in, whether it be family or co-workers or the media, whatever. Just know that you're powerful, you're able, you're capable to do anything, to change the world, There's no limit.
It's true. There is no limit. And it's us who put the limits on ourselves. And I know that you would apply the same to any other artist who's trying to make it, or anyone in any profession as well. So for you, in terms of culture and music, what does that mean to you? Because this podcast, AJ Soundbooth, is about music, arts, entertainment, and culture as well. So we're talking more about the music and the culture angle today. What does that mean to you to bring your culture into music?
When you say my culture, you mean my heritage?
And I was just about to say, in terms of culture can mean anything.
Ooh.
It doesn't have to, it's not pinned on your heritage. it's what is your culture, as you say before, like we can make up in our minds how we feel about people. So it's what you pin on it yourself.
You're making me really think. Good question. I think I definitely bring a culture of hope, a culture of love, a culture of encouragement. Like these are the things that I intentionally put into my music. Culture of realness, honesty. That honesty is like one of the most important things to me. Kindness. Those are the things that you will find in my music and in my messages and things that I say and things that I post.
Yes, yeah, definitely feel that. No, and yes, the hope, and that's what people need in music, as Lenny Henry said about the art of writing and being authentic and true as well. So I can't speak Spanish anyway. So what was the most difficult word that you had to kind of conquer? Or words in Spanish?
That's a good question. Do you know what?
Are you fluent, by the way?
Posible sí, posible no.
See, whatever it is, yes, you are fluent because...
I don't want to say too much because I don't want anyone to judge my accent. No, I think, when I first started learning Spanish, I did not know a word. And it's so bad for any Spanish speaker. You'll find this quite funny. My Spanish was so bad that I thought hola was spelled O-L-A, right?
Oh. I was like, I didn't mean that.
That's how bad my Spanish was when I first started out. Now I can speak. Now I can sing in Spanish, thank God. The hardest word to conquer, I really don't know, because I'm still learning, to be honest with you. There's different levels to the Spanish game. Some people talk really fast.
Oh, yes. I thought, let me just ask you, what was so difficult? Because there's just some words that it's really hard to pronounce, even in English.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, because I learned French at school, I find Spanish easier than French, but that's just my own personal opinion. But there's certain words or letters in Spanish that just operate differently. Like, for example, in Spanish, H's are silent. So my name in Spanish is Raquel.
Okay, I won't try.
Actually, that's a good one.
Raquel.
Rolling your R's. That's a real Spanish thing.
I can't even roll. This is the second time I've tried this on camera, but no, I won't do it.
Yeah, so that was probably the hardest thing. Raquel.
Could you roll your R's before?
I don't know. Probably
okay.
not very well.
We can have some lessons and then eventually I'll come back at some point.
First lesson is to relax. No.
Meditate. I'll do that. So on to any kind of books that you're reading. Like what is one of your favorite one of your favorite authors or one of the favorite books that you've read? And what's your key takeaway from that?
Oh, there's a great book by Malcolm Gladwell called Outliers. Phenomenal book. He studies people of excellence and basically figures out why they're so excellent and why they succeed. But he's such a great writer. I think he's one of my favorite writers, for sure.
That sounds really interesting.
It's amazing. He also wrote another book called David and Goliath, which also looks at the story of David and Goliath and the fact that, when people, I don't know if you know the story of David.
Yes.
Yeah, so David is the boy that kills the giant, right?
Yes.
And so when people talk about that story, they're like, David just had a stone and a sling and he was disadvantaged.
Yes.
Blah, blah, blah. But basically what Malcolm breaks down is actually the way that David operates his sling. So he wasn't actually disadvantaged, but he found his advantage point, which was his sling. And so the book encourages each of us to find our advantage, our strength. What's our strength? And operate from that place, because that's how we make impact. It's a great book and he's a great writer.
Yes, and when you talk about the excellence and why people are so successful, what did you take away from one of the characters? Because I'm quite intrigued and I'm thinking that their life must be simple rather than complicated.
Yeah, I think, in one way it is because they're super focused. But also a lot of it had to do with just how much intensive action they were taking in this particular area. So whether it be like, for example, I don't know, a football player, like the more amount of time that they spent playing football more intensively, the better they were. So it was actually it wasn't actually that complicated. It was a very simple, refined, focused way of living.
Yep. And then for you, as we say, way of living, your daily routine, what keeps you focused? Because you seem very focused. I say that, and you can tell, you can kind of pick up that kind of vibration from someone, and just how do you maintain your focusedness, if that is such a word? And I do appreciate there may be times, even for myself, where yes, there's days where you have down times where you need to unfocus so you can focus.
100%,
basically.
100%.
So what is the key for you?
Ooh, okay. Firstly, I just love what I'm doing. So, and I feel a real sense that this is a calling on my life. So I'm not just doing it because it's popular or because it's like the in thing. This is my thing. This is what part of what I was put on this earth to do. And I feel a sense of responsibility to be the very best that I can be at it. So that definitely drives me. Also, all along, it was always the power that music has to encourage people, to lift people up, to communicate, to create atmospheres. That drives me. Also, something else that is quite simple but something I really love. I always, where possible, take Sunday off and I don't do anything. I don't do any work whatsoever. And Sunday is my day, self-care. I'm not turning on my computer. I'm not doing anything. And because I do that, and when I do that, because I can't say it happens all the time, but 3 times out of 4 it will. Because I do that, when I hit Monday, I'm refreshed and I'm ready to go. So that really does help me as well.
That reset is really important.
Super
As you
important.
say that, I kind of was like scratching my rubbing my hands, thinking sometimes I do it, sometimes I don't. But it is really important to refresh and reset again, and get that focus. And go for walks.
Oh my gosh, I love walking. Oh, that's another thing. I love walking. Like, I can easily walk 5 miles a day sometimes.
That's good, and it's good for the fitness. To keep yourself healthy as well, and also seeing greenery, which I understand. Looking at greenery and taking in the fresh air is really important for mental health, and it's a subject that we're always talking about. It's talked about a lot in the media as well.
Definitely get away from the screens as much as possible. And obviously it's when you're building whatever, whether it be your career or business, like you need to work hard, you want to work hard, but actually having set times where you just don't look at your screen is super important. Like whether it be like after a certain time at night. Who of us actually does that? All of us lie in our beds with our phones, but
you could say like 3 hours and then next thing you know you're still there. Like just 1 more hour, 1 more scroll, and you could be scrolling. But I do have a limit myself. I just know when to stop. So
that's good.
It could be maybe about 4 or 5 minutes or so. Depends on what you're looking for. But it's following the right networks or people, like inspirational stuff. So every other message is going to be something that's really inspirational.
Very true.
To feed yourself as well. So moving on to your music, come back around again. In terms of who inspires you most in the industry, they don't have to be music artists. Who do you look up to that helps you to kind of be who you are today?
Do you know what? I've been watching, I don't know if you've seen this, a new documentary by Kanye West. Have you seen it?
No, not yet.
Oh my gosh. Like, I would encourage any artist to watch that because you get to see 20 years of documented history following Kanye West. Because we look at Kanye and we think, he's this big superstar or whatever, but you actually get to see the days where nobody cared about him. People like dissed him, didn't listen. He's trying to like sell his music to the record label that he's making beats for, but they're not interested, to where now, he's winning Grammys, et cetera, et cetera. So he's definitely someone in terms of like his journey, that has been really inspirational. And I know obviously there's a lot of controversy, surrounded by that. But if you watch that documentary and just forget about anything else, like it's super, super inspiring. But there's so many people in the industry. I mean, in terms of music artists, everybody from, oh my gosh, if we go back to the Motown era, I absolutely love that era because of the dedication. I don't know if you know much about their recording process back then, but they would record everything on one track, which meant that everybody had to be perfect at all times in order to get that great recording. Because if you're the singer that's messing up and everybody else is great, I mean, it would have been horrible. And so the excellence that was needed in that era, I think, is phenomenal. And I'm so grateful. Like when I study the Motown era, I just find that really, really inspirational.
And I've heard some artists have gone back to the Motown era to study it, and I didn't really know the reason behind why. Obviously, you got good singers, but the recording process, I didn't know much about that, but that is really interesting to know.
Auto-tune, like, because now, for anybody that knows, if I'm recording on my laptop, I can have as many tracks as I want. So I can do a really rubbish take of one track and then do a good take and then like mix and match and comp them. That just wouldn't have happened 60 years ago or 50 years ago, whatever. And so because of that, they had to be amazing singers. And you actually, when you look back, you see how good the singers were back then. And obviously there's amazing singers now, but it's like they had to be amazing back then.
Yeah, and as you say that, I think of like the Temptations. As soon as you said that, my mind went straight to them on stage, which I've seen on YouTube, and how they performed and the choreography, the dancing. Wow. They're just spot on all the way through. Spot on. Wow.
Definitely.
Yes, then moving on to your lyrics again.
Yeah.
Out of your tracks that you've produced, which would you say is your favourite and why?
Ooh. I've got some really good music coming out, so
I think she says, ooh.
I've got some really good music coming out, so it's hard to say. To be honest, I think Hold Tight is definitely one of my favorites because I think the blend between the lyrics and just the musical feel, like it's alternative R&B, so it's not like 90s R&B, it's slightly alternative, but it's just a vibe, and so I really, really enjoy like listening to that song. But as I said, I've got new music coming out. I've got a really great house track coming out soon. So,
when?
I don't want to say it because I don't know when this airs. So I'm not going to say, but very soon, very, very soon.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
And then for the kind of future, what do you have planned for the next like 2 years or so for us, for all of your followers to kind of keep in tune with what you're up to?
Yeah, so it's going to be a lot of music releases, lots of performing, traveling, writing, building the catalogue, making more impact in the industry and obviously outside the industry, and just being the best version of myself. Like, it's just go, go, go. I was really fortunate to sign a management deal last year. And
congratulations.
Thank you. And yeah, it's just been great to work with my manager. Like, we're both two very focused women, and I'm so happy she's a woman as well. It's great to work with another really passionate woman. So yeah, we've got lots coming.
So when you say that, I thought, oh, I've seen your kind of dancing in heels. Okay,
Yeah.
So this is going to be forming part of your whole performance. So the choreography, your routines as well. Like, how are you maintaining this all in one go? Like the singing and the dancing? Because I went to a dance class once, and this was for exercise, for fitness purposes. And I actually felt I had rhythm until I stood in the mirror. Everybody else was jumping up and down, and they were going to the right and I was going to the left.
As long as you were wrong and strong. I always say, just be wrong and strong. It's all good.
I just carried on. So seeing that on your the gram and the routines that you're doing in heels, I thought I would have tried that.
You should. Oh my gosh.
It looked really fun.
Yeah, no, I've been dancing for a very long time, and I've always done singing and dancing. So it's very hard for me to choose between the two because I love both. Dancing in heels, obviously when I perform on stage, I'm wearing heels. So that's why I do those classes. But yeah, and I've just started a really amazing heels class, which is Latin jazz. So it's like a fusion of like hip hop, commercial, Latin, so salsa, rumba, and jazz, which are like my favorite styles. So it's intense.
It sounds great. You're the whole blogging lifestyle, but you've got to keep it going, definitely, and definitely come back to AJ Soundbooth to let us know, to see what you're up to and what your plans are. I'm just waiting to see the next like 4 years where you're going to be, who you're going to be collaborating with as well.
Yeah, definitely. Some big things are going to happen. I know that this is my path, and the sky's the limit. You know, doors are opening every single day. So I will not limit myself. I'll just open myself up and receive all the goodness that's coming my way.
And your kind of final words, like what is your, your go-to quote that you kind of live by each day that you would like to share?
Oh my gosh. Do you know what? As you said that, the one, and it kind of ties in with what I'm saying, and the one that just came to my mind, which actually comes from the Bible, it just says, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And I definitely remind myself that I have full capability to achieve everything that I was put on earth to achieve. And I live by that. and I encourage other people to live by that. And so, you know, I try my best if I see something in someone like, you're a great presenter, you need to keep presenting. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, it would be that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for coming to the studio today and for speaking to me on AJ Soundbooth. It was a pleasure, Rachelle, having you here. And I wish you everything but good things for your career.
Thank you
well.
so much. It's been an honor to be here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Listen to AJ Soundbooth, the podcast, on Phoenix FM and other audio streaming services.